Gather close, dear listener, and listen, for tonight's tale is not for the faint of heart. It is a chronicle of a creature whose very name curdles blood, a being so abhorrent, so consumed by malice, that even the deepest pits of the earth could not stifle his rage. Let us begin our descent into the shadows. Long ago, in an age where myths clawed at the edge of reality, there festered a creature of unfathomable power, a being forged from pure malice and chaos. Wherever he tread, death followed like a ravenous hound. 10 great continents once flourish, his wrath reduced them to 5 smouldering wastelands. To halt his carnage, the fractured nations united their greatest heroes. The clash was a tempest of steel and sorcery, a battle so desperate that the earth itself wept ash. The heroes' blades bit at his flesh, their spells seared his bones, yet still, even their combined might could not slay him. Instead, they bound him within the elder tree, that ancient maw of suffering. As you may recall the tree from the old tales, that tree needs no retelling. Its name alone rots the tongue. I'll spare you the grim particulars of its accursed history, for telling it once is more than enough. I digress. There he was sealed within its blackened bark, a prisoner among countless others, their bodies devoured by the elder tree's ravenous timber, leaving only hands protruding from the wood, still whole and clawing from the wood like gnarled roots frozen in eternal silent screams. To stall his own petrification, he plunged his arms deep into the tree, fighting to slow the bark's insidious crawl, a desperate gambit to slow its fibrous tendrils, thirsting to fuse flesh to timber, to bind him forever. In an effort to defy his fate, he spat the very same flames that once devoured cities, hurled spells that once sundered armies. Yet the wood laughed, unyielding above him. A serpentine vine dangled, its leaves hissing mockery as it slithered beyond his flames. Defeated, he retreated into memory. His past was a tapestry of rot, woven with threads of neglect and despair. Born amidst the festering slums of the fallen central city flame, a place where sewage choked the gutters and the stench of decay clung to every breath. He was left on the splintered doorsteps of an orphanage, a den of wolves draped in false pity. The caretakers, their smiles sharp as rusted blades, fed the children just enough to straggle, mold speckled bread, broth thin as rainwater, and lies about salvation. Once the children could walk, they were hurled into the streets, their tiny hands clutching dented tins to beg for coins that vanish into the orphanage's coffers. The rule was simple: meet the monthly quota or be sold. He tried. By the merciless law of the gutter he tried, but the streets were a viper's nest. Older orphans, ribs protruding like prison bars, would corner him, snatching his coins with cracked nails and thrust his through rotted teeth. Winter gnawed at his bones, leaving him trembling too violently to hold his tin. Summer baked the cobblestones, and pitying eyes turned indifferent. Some days he'd collapse beneath the weight of hunger, watching his coins scatter into the gutter. For failure wasn't a choice, it was an indisputable law of survival. In a world that devoured the weak, a world where the orphanage's ledger never line. Every child knew the price of falling short. Your name etched into the accursed ledger of the auctioneers. Your body paraded before bidders with hungry eyes. The caretakers made sure of it. They dragged failures from their beds at dawn, still shivering from nightmares, and tossed them into carts bound for the market square. No tears, no farewells, just a clatter of wheels on cobblestone, fading into the fog. He'd seen it happen to the others. The hollow-eyed boy who coughed blood into his tin. The girl whose frost-bitten fingers could not clutch coins. One by one they vanished, replaced by whispers of gilded carriages and chains. Now, as the caretakers loomed over his meager pyre of copper, their lips curled. Not enough, not even clothes. And thus the auction awaited. At the auction, bids clashed like blades, a cacophony of greed echoing beneath the market's rotting rafters. His species rare, even in those ancient days, it drew covetous stares from bidders hungering for novelty. A final bid of 7,000 golden coins sealed his fate. He was purchased as a servant for a wealthy noble's sickly child. He stood shackled, neck chained, eyes hollow, and devoid of life. He had long surrendered to fate, his spirit eroded by the fleeting yet lingering desire for survival. The traders yanked him towards a carriage, one of them barking like a madhound. Sit with the cargo, he demanded, as the child's cuffed hands hung limp, the chains clanging like a dire. As the noble approached, the crowd which gathered to watch what they considered a humorous spectacle parted. Keys to the child's restraints were pressed into his palm. Before entering the carriage, the noble paused, pity softening his gaze. With a click, the chains fell. Sit with me, he murmured, gesturing to the luxurious carriage seats, cushioned with the finest of materials. The accursed one obeyed, sinking onto the carriage floor, a reflex carved by years of subjugation. The noble frowned. No child. Here, he said, guiding him to the cushion. Their eyes met, the noble's voice slow but firm. Everything will be all right. Outside, as the traders neared, the carriage door shut, sealing them in silence as it lurched forward towards a new dawn. The mansion loomed, a mausoleum of marble. As the noble exited the carriage, he ordered the servants to prepare the child. Thus the servants scrubbed the accursed one. As they finished, they wrapped him in fine fabrics that clung like cobwebs. He was brought before the noble son, a spectacle of a child, with hair like freshly fallen snow, skin like flawless porcelain, and eyes sparkling like twilight amethyst, deep, vivid, yet unnervingly hollow. This is your charge, the noble declared. Treat him kindly. The child tilted his head, voice frail as winter's last breath. Why does he sit on the ground? Patience, the noble sighed. He knows little of our world. Teach him of kindness. The young noble extended a hand towards the accursed one. Trembling, he grasped it. As they exited the room, the nobleman stood up abruptly, causing the legs of his chair to scrap like a dagger across the carpet. He strode to the sunlit window, fingers resting tightly on the sill as he gazed at the sprawling gardens below. A vibrant tapestry of emerald trees adorned with blossoms in hues of coral and violet, their branches heavy with golden fruit that glinted like jewels under the midday sun. The butler hovered behind him, his reflection fractured in the glass. "My lord," the butler pressed, "the worst taught as a bowstring. Is it wise to harbour such a creature?" The noble did not turn. "You know of my child's predicament," he said, voice low and frayed, "and of my standing. He needs protection, someone they cannot easily sway or remove." A beat of silence broken only by the distant hum of bees darting between the blossoms. The butler's jaw tightened. "Of course, my lord." Outside the boy pressed. "Do you have a name?" The accursed one shook his head. "Then I'll give you one." "Hmm. Your hair. Why is it so long? Let me see your eyes." The accursed one recoiled, trembling. The young boy noticed, said, "Later, when you feel ready, show me." They spent the entire day wandering the estate. First the young noble led the accursed one through halls adorned with tapestries of forgotten wars, their threads faded but still whispering tales of old valor. When they stepped into the garden that bloomed like a painter's dream, sunlight filtered through emerald leaves, dappling paths lined with flowers in explosions of gold, sapphire, and ivory. Roses spilled over arbors, their petals velvety and drenched in a honeyed fragrance. Hyacinths swayed in clusters, their sweet perfume mingling with the crisp scent of herbs. Butterflies dripped between blossoms, wings shimmering like stained glass. Wild bees hummed lazily over beds of lavender. For the first time in his life, the accursed one saw colors that did not reek of rust nor rot. Hues he'd never imagined, velvety midnight blues coiled like serpents in the shadows of the hedges. Pale lilies glowed like moonlight pooled in marble bowls, and roses so crimson they seemed to bleed, dripped their vividness onto the sunlit path. He let go of the young noble's hand, crouching to brush his finger over an iris's mystic petal. A breeze swept through, carrying the laughter of wind chimes, hidden among the jasmine. The young noble watched him. Then still the sunlight caught the accursed one's eyes. "That's the name your boy said," kneeling beside him. His voice was soft, almost lost in the garden symphony orchestrated by the birds humming a sweet and gentle tune. Flinched. "Do you like it? It's the same word for the color of your eyes." The young noble smile was warm, like the golden light pooling around them. "And my name is. I hope we'll get along." Said nothing. That night he laid in his new bed, a coat softer than any he'd known, and pressed a hand over one eye, murmuring the strange word. Thus the days continued, and showed him every corner of the estate, dusty libraries reeking of mildew, courtyards where sunlight fought through ivy-choked arches, and stable where horses snorted. He dragged to his lessons, where tutors droned about history and sums. Together they learned in silence, with restless curiosity. Months later, as trust seeped into the cracks of guarded heart, the noble took notice. From the shadows of the estate's arched colonnade, he watched an bar with sticks in the sunlit courtyard. The two boys' laughter sharp and bright as the evening sun. cut through the garden's honeyed air, where roses blazed crimson and lavender hummed with bees. The noble saw the change, his sun pale cheeks flushed with vigor, and his hollow gaze flickering with the faint embers of life. One evening, as dusk brushed the sky, the noble summoned to the training yard. The knight captain stood at his side, a mountain of scarred armor, his gauntleted hand gripping a blunt sword. Tells me you've shown promise, the noble said, voice gravelled but deliberate. This man here is the captain of my cavalry. He shall teach you the art of the blade properly, if you so wish. Perched on a stone bench beneath the gnarled oak, his thin frame bundled in wool, despite the fading warmth, he grinned as hesitantly took the sword, fingers tightening like vines on a trellis. I look forward to learn from you, Captain, said, his voice bright but tinged with uncertainty. The captain paused, a faint smirk curling beneath his beard. Call me master, he replied, the chuckle in his voice sharp as wet stone. Twilight after twilight, the captain drilled, footwork sharp as a dagger's edge, parries timed to the rhythm of wooden sword. He mimicked stances with the blade tightly in his grip, his arms trembling like moth's wings, until he slumbered against the oak, breath ragged, blade carved arcs through the dusk, each strike punctuated by lines, nods, or scribbled diagrams. Nights blurred, steel sang, in the silence between clashes, friendship took root, fragile, tenacious, yet alive. Years later, tragedy struck. The noble lord returned to the estate, clad in armor crusted with dried blood, his face a mask of grim resolve. He found in the study, their laughter dying as he threw open the doors. Outside the window, storm clouds devoured the horizon. Boys, he rasped, I'm sorry. You must leave the estate. There are powerful people whom seek my downfall for opposing their corruption. They've infiltrated the courts, the armies. We thought we could fight them, but his gauntleted hand trembled against the window sill. For your safety, I'm sending you south. Voice frayed. What of you, father? I am to remain. I remain to extinguish the flames. The noble turned to eyes burning like coal. Keep him alive. Nodded, his hand clenching the hilt of his sword. Of course, my lord. His fist tightened, knuckles white. Father, please. The noble cupped his son's face, smearing ash across his cheek. For a better tomorrow, for you and for those like I shall not fall, nor shall I fail. An emergency horn screeched, a sound like a gutted beast. The Lord shoved them towards the corridor. To the back exit, a carriage awaits. Knights clad in midnight steel herded them through panicked halls. Clung to his father's cloak. Come with us. The noble peeled his son's fingers away, voice breaking. I'll join you when the storm passes. Be safe. At the exit, the knight captain stood with the elite soldiers, his scarred face unreadable. Young lord, you and right in the carriage will guard the perimeter. Hesitate. Tears cutting tracks through his face. His father gripped his shoulder one last time. Go. Through the window watched the noble turn towards the storm, his silhouette swallowed by shadows and rain. As they reached the middle of the forest of their territory, the knight captain said, "We'll camp here, my lord. Sleep in the carriage, it's safer that way." He turned to his tone softening slightly. "If anything were to happen, you have to drive the carriage. Burn the woods to cinders if you have to, but make sure to keep the young lord alive. Understand?" Nodded, tightening his grip on his sword. "I won't fail you, master." The knights positioned the carriage between two thick oaks, building a small fire to ward off the chill. Inside, tucked his cloak tighter, his voice barely a whisper. "Do you think father's okay?" And shifted his sword across his lap. "He survived worse. Doubt even master could take him in a fight." And laughed weakly, the sound brittle in the cold air. "Right. Good night." Good night. Hours later, steel clashed outside. Burst from the carriage to see the knights grappling with shadowy figures. The captain roared, "Move the carriage! Go!" He scrambled towards the driver's seat, snapping the reins, lurched awake, peering through the window. "What's happening?" "An ambush! Stay down!" and yelled, his voice cracking. Pursuers poured from the trees, sucking a breath, spewing flames that lit the forest like a wildfire. Surprised by the sight, but not for long, for the road exploded ahead. The horses screamed, the carriage flipped, and dragged into the bush, their hands slick with sweat and dirt. But it was to no avail. The masked figures slithered from the shadows, their cloaks whispering like dried leaves over bone. One stepped forward, his mask craved into the leering visage. One stepped forward, his mask carved into the leering visage of a plague crow, his beak hooked and glistening with poison. His voice oozed from behind the woods, saccharine and rotten. "Hand over the boy, and you'll die quick." "Refuse?" The mask tilted, hollow eyes glinting. "And I peel your skin while he watches you helplessly." Gnar ripped through the air, feral and guttural. "You'll choke on your tongue before you touch him." Suddenly, a dagger moved faster than thought. A serpent strike, forged from blackened star iron, its edge hummed with a sorcerous wail. As dodged it, it plunged into the chest for what seemed like a heartbeat. Blood, not a bloom, but a flood. Crimson red, drenched tunic, the metallic stench, sharp as a blade. He staggered, eyes wide, not with pain, but sorrow. His lips formed a name, but no sound came. In a fit of rage, unleashed his power. Fire erupted from his core, engulfing the battlefield, a cataclysm of flame that devoured friend and foe alike. Yet some by cruel twist of fate, the inferno parted, leaving the young lord untouched amidst the carnage. His flesh dissolved like wax over a forge, sloughing away in sizzling ribbons to reveal a skeletal vestige carved from the petrified bones of ancient leviathans, their marrow long turned to ash, his jaw stretched into a serrated draconic maw, jagged as a mountain range, and lined with obsidian fangs that dripped molten slag. Four eyes ignited in staggered pairs, two glowing like molten coins fresh from a furnace, the other two weeping blue smoke that curled into screaming faces. The hollows of his skull crackled with vines of liquid fire, their light pulsing in time with his raged breath, while shadows withered around him like phantom scourges, not cast by light, but devouring it, a living void that hummed with the whispers of the damned. When the flames died, nothing remained, no trees, no enemies, no allies, only ash and in the ruins, his face pale with horror, screamed, collapsing to his knees as he cradled his slim body. Don't go, his voice cracked into a raw, guttural plea. Not you, not like this. His hand trembled, brushing his cheek one last time, leaving a smudge of blood that mirrored the crimson of his eyes. His lips parted, words feather light. Live, live like you did with me. Find gardens, not graves. A rattling breath escaped him, carrying the ghost of a smile. But remember, his hand fell, the light in his eyes dimmed, leaving only the reflection of monster's face. Around them the forest fell silent, no wind, no birds. Pressed his forehead to his voice splintering. You are my first friend, my only friend. But the boy who named him, who taught him to smell flowers instead of blood, to hold a sword instead of chains, was gone. Madness took root. He raised continents, turned heroes to ash. Now entombed in the elder tree, he claws at the bark. This prison will burn, I'll make them scream. I'll make sure they don't forget you, master, and your father. And so we arrive at the precipice. We believed him a mindless butcher, yet now we glimpse the boy sold for gold, the friend who named him, the emotions twisted into inferno. Does agony absolve atrocity? No. But heed this: monsters are not born, they are sculpted by betrayal, by loss, by a world that grinds hope to dust. He reflects, unrepentant. I regret nothing. 5 continents fell, heroes became kindling. The elder tree gnaws, its bark splintering beneath his claws. This is why he brought death and despair to all. I do not regret my choices. The words coil in his mind like serpents. Without them I'd have rotted in chains, but I will have my revenge on everyone. This prison of wood and whispers will not stop me. Thus concludes the tale we thought we knew. We painted him as a villain, an ingrate, thirsting for innocent blood. Yet now we know. We see the cracks in his story, the boy who smelled roses before ruin, who clung to a name gifted, not cursed. Does tragedy excuse tyranny? No, but let it be a warning. Even the damned were once human. May none suffer as he suffered, may none repeat his crimes. But the story is not done. The altar tree trembles, the vine still mocks, and somewhere in the ashes of memory awaits one day, he vow. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Until the next one.